Welcome to the Put On Waivers Media Group, home of the Put On Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
Me either.
I would take every one of those guys they signed.
Serious. So, question. I'm looking at the list of guys here who is best available right now. NFL.com kind of put together a list. Would Isaiah Wynn be a guy who you would if you're looking at that tackle? Because I just want to avoid taking a tackle. I know I'm just gonna lose. I already lost my hair, so I can't say lose my hair. But I'm gonna go crazy if they take a tackle there. And if they take the kid out of Wisconsin, I'm not Wisconsin.
Northwestern.
Northwestern. I'd be, listen, he's a good player. I like him a lot. Plug and play, good to go. But I mean, if you have an opportunity to get that in free agency, why not just get it in free agency? So it's one less thing you have to deal with. And then you also traded Waller. So you kind of got to go. I mean, listen, if you're going to get rid of Waller, at least you're getting rid of Waller in a quote unquote historically gifted tight end class. Musgrave, the kid out of Notre Dame. You got Dalton Kincaid out of Utah. But why not just kind of get as many bodies in there as possible, see who wins the job?
Well, I think they did that when they brought in Howard and Hooper. So I think you're set there. You're going to still draft a guy and have him compete with Horsted and Farthingham and whoever the other guys are that are hanging around. But I would ask you this, like, if you look at what they've done in free agency,
yes,
they've added skill position players.
Yep.
They've added defensive backs. They added a linebacker. What are the two things they haven't done? They didn't attack the offensive or defensive line.
Yes.
It's a copycat league. The teams that are winning right now build through the offensive and defensive line, and those guys aren't really available in free agency. And if they are, they cost a lot of money. So it wouldn't surprise me. The Raiders last year tried to build the offensive and defensive lines. They drafted Parham, Mumford, Butler, Farrell. They're going to do it again. We're lining this draft up to where they're going to load up on offensive and defensive line. It's coming.
I hate the truth sometimes. I hate the truth because it is coming.
The more and more
you talk about it, yes, it's coming. It's coming. We're going to
sign like 5 defensive backs out of the bargain bin. Like they're not drafting a corner at 7.
Oh, God.
They need to, but they're not going to.
They're not going to because they definitely need, especially with the two guys up, the kid Illinois and Gonzalez. Like both of those guys are, I think, ready to go. Starting day one in the National Football League. I don't. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you're right. I mean,
look at it this way.
It's coming.
If you were in Vegas and I told you with their first 3 picks, so they pick what, 7, 38, 70.
Mm-hmm.
The odds of 2 of those 3 picks being on defense, I think would be, 2 of those 3 picks being on offense would be higher than they are on defense right now, because I think they're going to take an offensive lineman, and I think they're taking a quarterback with one of those other 2 picks, meaning the defense is going to get one of those top 3 picks. So they're not building this defense through the draft like they're telling you they're going to either. Like Josh McDaniels is going to go find a quarterback in the second round, whether that's Hooker or McKee or whoever. And he's going to take an offensive lineman in the first or second round as well. Just that's what this offseason is setting up for.
So also, I think with that being said, do you think it's less of a bust factor as well too? If they go out there and get somebody like that, if they sit there and go ahead, nobody's going to ever argue with you if they say, "Oh, look what the Raiders did. Oh, I give them a B+ because they went and they addressed their offensive and defensive line for the entire draft, and they got a quote unquote maybe future quarterback as well. So the bus factor is going to look good as well too. So I mean that's probably part of it too. Like they obviously need it, but then they're also going to look at the situation where it's those guys. Even if as long as you don't get an all-time bust like Alex Leatherwood, you're going to get a guy who's going to play in the league.
Yeah, it hasn't been good to the Raiders.
No,
in the first round, but historically, it's probably the safest demographic to draft from. You really have a high hit rate when you take an offensive lineman in the top 20 for the most part. It's rare that you end up with a Leatherwood. or a Matt Stinchcomb, or even a Robert Gallery, who ended up having a long career, but he had to move inside. They took him in the top. I think they took him second or third. It was in the top 3 picks. So, what derailed Josh McDaniels' offensive last year? The play of the offensive line in the first 6 or 7 weeks. Do you think he's going to let that happen again?
No,
I don't. He's drafting an offensive lineman. To me, if it came down to an offensive lineman or Jalen Carter, I'd probably roll the dice on Jalen Carter, and I understand the ramifications that come with that. But he would have a bigger impact on this team if he checks out, as far as like if he's not just a complete and utter douchebag, basically. If he's a good teammate and like he's immature and he's made some bad choices, that's one thing. But this offensive line is not ready. Like they're still a guard short. They still probably want to move Parham inside at some point, if not this year, next year. So they're still 2 guards short.
Yeah.
You're not going to fix this offensive line by taking a guard and plugging him in and just running it back with James, Miller, Illuminor, and Parham. Like there needs to be a shakeup on this offensive line, and I think it comes from putting a rookie in at right tackle. Illuminor is now your swing, and then if you need to keep a 4th guy, you keep Parker because he can slide over to play the left side, and he gives you some sort of insurance in case there's another injury in training camp. That's why I think he's basically on the roster. And if something happened to James, Parham's going to have to play center. Like you still need a couple of guards, and they don't have any, which is why Skoronski from Northwestern makes sense because he can play every position on the offensive line other than center. And this team talks about offensive lineman versatility, playing multiple positions. You saw them moving all these guys around. Who's the one guy they can do that with? It's the guy from Northwestern, who's a really good player, by the way.
He's a good player. The fans are not going to love the flash won't be there, and I don't want him to do it, but yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Oh my God, I can't believe this team.
They're taking Johnson, Carter, or Skoronski.
I mean, if they take Skoronski, I'd be happier. I don't. Johnson is, we'll see.
He needs a lot of technical work, but he has really good physical traits. I just don't think he's ready to play at the level they're going to need him to play at game 1.
And they're gonna sit there. I think they attempted to go to 1, and it proved to be too costly. As far as second round, late round quarterback, interesting because you're gonna have to look at a situation like talked about Hooker, Tanner McKee, the guy who I would cry. I literally would cry if they drafted the Fresno State kid. I've seen that kid play live. He is not an NFL quarterback. Please don't do it. But what are your thoughts about what they might do at quarterback? Because they might not take a quarterback at 7 because even if Levis is there.
Yeah, just read the tea leaves. They brought in Blaine Gabbert for a visit. So obviously the quarterback that they want, they realize they might not be able to get. So there's some contingency plans in place. Like if something happened to Jimmy G, do you really want to play a 4th or 5th round rookie? No, you're going to have another veteran on the roster to come in and play if something happened early in the season. Now, can you roll into the season with Jimmy G and let's say a 3rd or 4th round quarterback? That only works if Jimmy G makes it through like the first 10 weeks and the other guy gets OTAs, training camp, and then 3 months to basically build up. And then even if he gets in the game, you're basically handing the ball 40 times a game. I'm totally against it at where this roster is. Just sign a veteran at that point, get through another season, and worry about quarterback in 2024. Because the chances are that guy is going to end up being, if it works out, he's going to be a backup for 4 or 5 years, 4 years until his contract's up, and then you have to decide if you want to hold on to him. So you're basically grooming him for someone else.
Yes.
And if at some point in the next 2 years, if they move on from Jimmy G and you want to play a 4th round quarterback, unless the odds of you finding a Dak Prescott or finding a Tom Brady in the 6th round or finding a Mark Bolger who went in the 5th round, like one of these guys that could come in and play is minimal. It's very slim. And then the fact finding that guy and you're going to beat Herbert or Mahomes is basically 0. And so if you're the next quarterback is going to be a 1st round pick, the guy that's going to take snaps once Jimmy G's done and help this team win.
Do you think that they're kind of victims of their own? Like, oh, we found Jimmy G, we found Jacoby Brissett. like we could find that guy later on. I mean, that kind of worries me. Like when I see that, I'm like, they're probably not gonna go, even if Levis is there. I don't think they. I'm not sure what quarterback would have to be there at 7 for them to be like, okay, we gotta take this. We forget the offensive lineman. We gotta take this quarterback. It would have to be Young or Stroud.
Yes, it's one of those two guys.
But if it's Richardson or Levis, it's they're taking offensive linemen.
In my opinion, yes.
Yeah, and it's interesting because especially if AR-15 turns into Jalen Hurts or Randall Cunningham, they're gonna get roasted for taking offensive linemen.
I don't know if they will. AR-15 has played 13 games in college. The track record of quarterbacks that have played that few starts is not good at all. He's a guy that needs to play. Like bringing him in and sitting him on the bench for a year or two is not going to help him at all.
No.
He needs to go somewhere where he can play where there's no expectations. Throwing him to the Wolves where he's at right now in his development is not going to – it's going to piss off everyone on this roster. Like it's going to piss off Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, these guys trying to get open, and he's running all over. He's taking sacks. Like he needs to play to continue developing. And the Raiders can't afford to take a quarterback at 7 and sit him on the bench for 2 years. It's counterproductotive. It's just not a fit. He might be a really good prospect, but he has to play to get there, and the Raiders are not in a position to give him playing time.
And I totally, people in the media talk about him in a sense where they feel like he has to sit for a year, and I'm with you. I feel like he has to play. Like if you sit there and sit him, like he's not gonna learn, learn. I mean, he needs to actually get out there and do something to actually be successful in National Football League. So I totally agree with that. Totally agree with you about that. Do you like? Let's see, Jay. Quick question here actually before I go to questions, let me go to Renfrow. He's still on the team. Do you feel like his situation is safe? I think that it's still tenuous. I think they could still move Hunter Renfrow, but I think you want to have 3 really good wide receivers. Injury could happen at any time. Do you really want to kind of get rid of a weapon? In Renfrow, you already got rid of a weapon in Darren Waller. I'd say you hold on to him for a year. His contract isn't killing you. But what are your thoughts about Renfrow here? Do you feel like he's in a situation where he would be tradable, or I'm not sure how people would spend a lot of value to try to get Hunter Renfrow right now?
I would say tradable for what? If it's a 4th or 5th round pick, I would just hold on to him. I always thought, and people thought I was crazy last year, like right out of the gate when I said they have to trade one of these 3 guys. Like you can't have these 3 guys
occupy the middle
trying to do the same thing. Yeah. And obviously I would have preferred to move Renfrow over Waller, but financially it made more sense and you got a better draft pick for Waller, so I get it. Now you're plugging in Jacoby Myers, who does the same thing. Like he wants to work the intermediate routes. He's basically going to replace Waller. You put a blocking tight end in there, but they need Renfrow. If Jimmy G is going to work the middle of the field and do what he does, Hunter Renfrow needs to be a part of that. So I don't think they're going to move on from him. I'd say I'm 90% confident he's going to be on the roster. Unless someone wants to step up and give them a 2nd or a high 3rd, then I'm sure they'll have those conversations. Or if the Raiders decide, you know what, we are going to go get that quarterback no matter what, and they need to get up to 2 or 3, and the acquiring team wants him, I don't think he would stop me from making that move if I was convinced that that's the quarterback I wanted. So those are kind of the only scenarios I would move him. If it's to get the quarterback I want, or if I'm getting a really good value, like a 2 or a high 3, not pick 100, not the end of the 3rd round, but if you're giving me a pick in the top 70, then yeah, I think I would have those conversations with teams. But I still think he's going to be on the roster.
All right, let's hit some questions now. Jay on Instagram wants to know second round or whatever round, if both Hooker and McKee are on the board, who would you go with? I mean,
the best cornerback.
The best. I was going to say the same thing. I mean, is there a third option? Because I
Cam
can't.
Smith.
Because A and B, I'm not feeling either one of those guys. I mean, I've seen almost every snap of McKee's career out here on the West Coast. I mean, like, he's just stop it as far as that goes with him, and Hooker has something to prove. I mean, if he comes in and plays well in the National Football League, I'll give him credit. I just don't know if what he did in college is going to translate to the National Football League. I think we kind of chronicled that as well. And I think I give credit to that the people in the media at the combine who asked that question. They said, "Hey, like, does it translate?" And nobody really, that offense is not a pro style offense.
My question would be, if you took Hooker, what's the plan? I would put him on PUP.
Yeah,
it's coming off major knee surgery.
Yeah.
I wouldn't play him for the first 6 weeks. So he basically would be redshirted if I'm taking him. And now he's 27 years old when he plays 2 years from now. I don't want to back up an injury-prone quarterback with a quarterback who's older, who's coming off a major injury that happened in November, late October, early November. Like, he won't even be a year off of this knee surgery. He may be cleared to run around and throw balls at camp. I don't want him taking live shots in an NFL game in September if Jimmy G goes down in week 1 or week 2.
Yeah.
Now you're jeopardizing both guys. So if the plan is to take Hooker, and they may do that, then obviously they're going to bring in a Blaine Gabbert or someone else and basically hide Hooker for half the season if they can on PUP or something else, because I wouldn't expect them to think that he's going to be 100% and ready to go week 1. It's going to be a steep learning curve from the offense he ran at Tennessee to what he's going to see on Sundays. It looks great on TV when guys are running wide open and you're throwing bombs down the field, but that doesn't happen on Sunday when they play too high. He's going to have to read defenses in a pro environment with pro formations, not these double split where there's 2 guys outside the numbers on the college field with the wide hashes. And it's just basically your one-on-one pre-snap. Okay, I have a better athlete. He's going to beat their athlete, and I'm just going to hit him. Like, it's totally different what he's going to see on Sundays. It's going to take him time.
No question about it. Andy, 718, that's New York, and wants to know about what do they do at 7 if they stay at 7. I mean, I think we talked about it before. It's not going to be popular.
Offensive or defensive line would be my guess.
Offensive or defensive line. It looks like, I mean, it just kind of makes, when you connect the dots, and I could, like I said, I'm more on the defensive side of it, but I do think that like Ryan said,
Tyree Wilson, it would be an option too.
Tyree Wilson would be too.
Or Nolan Smith, depending on how athletic, if they really believe that his workout can translate, because he's a 3-4 outside backer. Yeah. That's basically what the Raiders play. I think they would prefer Wilson's length and size.
Yes.
But they may prefer the explosiveness of Smith. So those 2 offensive linemen we talked about, Jalen Carter, and maybe those 2 defense. I don't see them going corner. Not in the first. Not at 7, based on how they've attacked free agency.
Yeah, I would be nice. It'd be nice to think. I mean, just the 2 guys on top I love, but yeah, I totally agree. I think what they didn't address in the off season so far will probably be what they draft here. So thanks for that, Andy.
And they're going to tell you best player available, but we know that's not true.
It's a lie. The Cowboys do that all the time. And look at their roster. Kobe 619 is Carter off the field? Does Carter's off the field stuff worry you? And does it worry you even more that he couldn't finish the workout that they just had? He looked out of shape. Now that was like, a little Jamarcus Russell-ish. When Jamarcus took off his shirt, I was like, hey, that's a NFL quarterback. But I mean, for him, I mean, listen, like, he played the whole year. He was a dominant player in the SEC. For the most part. So I'm not sure if what was going on in the workout situation, but like I said, we just came off of Henry Ruggs. Ruggs and Arnett. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I personally, like, you got to be a guy who won a couple rings for me to like say, okay, I'm gonna bring that guy in and he's gonna do what I say. Like that's where I would say, okay, fine. If it was, Bill Belichick, if it was, Pete Carroll, yeah, you know what? I trust them to kind of maybe hopefully get into this kid's head and make something happen. But besides that, that kind of worries me.
I will add this. This is why teams have area scouts. The area scout that covers Georgia knows way more about Jalen Carter and what's going on off the field than the public knows, than we know. That's his job. His job is to get to know the kid, to get to know the environment, get to know his family situation, get to know what kind of decisions he makes, who's the people he hangs out with. And the Raiders have to be comfortable with all of that. And then the area scout's got to sign off, and then the regional cross checker is gonna have connections in the air, and he's gonna do digging. And then the scouting director is gonna have people that he's gonna trust. So like all of that has to line up, and then it has to be the right fit for the team. What does Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniel think about putting this guy in the locker room? There's a lot of things that go on with prospects in all sports that never gets to the public. They would amaze a lot of people and gets covered up, good or bad. You see guys fall on draft day. There's reasons for that, because the people that work at these publications and these websites don't have the inside access that the organizations have, that they know about these players. Some of it comes out after the fact, but I would say me personally, yes, the decisions he's made that we know publicly, because I think that what we know publicly, there's way more behind that we don't know.
No.
That the Raiders are going to have to figure out. And if they're comfortable with that and they think it's the right environment, then take him, because he's an immense talent. But they have to be comfortable with that. And then now you have to put this guy in a situation, you're giving him money and you're putting him in Las Vegas. Generational money if you take him at 7. And thinking that he's going to be able to change all of these bad habits and all of these, like not finishing the workout, has to do with his willingness to invest in his career. Like, this guy needs to be a professional, and he needs to train as a professional, and he can't do it. And it always amazes me, the people that used to fail the test at the combine for smoking marijuana. You know when the test is going to be. Yes, it's a stupidity test when you fail that. Not being in shape for your pro day is so scouts can check off, does this guy want to work and be a professional? He didn't check that box. That's a major red flag. That doesn't mean he's not going to be a good football player in the NFL. Like, maybe a light comes on and maybe he makes that decision, but the Raiders are going to have to be comfortable with Jalen Carter, the person, the human being. They're going to have to understand how he's wired and what, how he makes decisions, what motivates him. If he's not motivated to be a great football player, money's not going to change that. So the Raiders those are the things that those scouts are getting paid to do.
And money's only going to make him more of what he already is. So if he's a knucklehead, he'll continue to be a knucklehead. If he wants to be a great player, then then we'll see if he's a great player. As far as that goes, let's see. We are very weak on paper. What's the so Lee from 7760? We are very weak on paper. What is the most concerning area of the defense? To me, I hate the linebacking core of this team. I really do. I cannot. I detest it. I hate even looking at Rlands.com and looking at the depth chart. It's just disgusting. To me, I don't like it at all. I just think. I mean, even last year I think they set a record for what completions when covered and when linebackers were in coverage. They were just really bad, and I don't see any. I don't think Spillane or whoever, and then also the Diablo are going to be
Diablo's coming back.
Diablo's coming back. So I know they had quote unquote big plans. They kind of treated him like he was a superstar last year, right? He didn't do anything before the season started. No preseason games. I think Josh Jacobs had more preseason snaps than Devon Diablo did before the season started, and he didn't do anything. And what did that amount to? It didn't amount to much. So they got to be able to cover, and they're not great there at all. And I think that's something that people aren't stupid. They're just going to go ahead and just keep putting those guys in vulnerable situations and move the chains.
I think, can I answer that multiple? I think defensive interior, the defensive tackles are still poor. Yeah. The pass rush is still not good. I don't trust Chandler Jones. The linebacker, I'm going to read you their linebackers. Curtis Bolton, special team guy. Darian Butler, special team guy. Devon Diablo, not very good in zone coverage. They're going to play a lot of man this year, so he's going to have to really play a lot of man coverage at a high level. Luke Masterson, it's kind of just fair last year. I wouldn't want him starting. Mauga, I don't know, from USC. I didn't know Kanai Mauga is on the roster. Robert Spillane was one of the worst coverage linebackers in the NFL last year. That's it. That's their linebacking core. And then I would throw corner. Like right now, Duke Shelley, who's a good football player, but he's not a guy who's going to go out there. The outside corners on there are Duke Shelley and Nate Hobbs, or maybe who's the other guy that they just signed? Uh, David Long from David Long Jr. from the Rams, who was a backup. Like they don't have experience outside. Brandon Faison, they didn't sign him last offseason. Like these are the guys who are going to be lining up and trying to stop the weapons in the AFC West. Like I'm having Ron Bartel and Shante Spencer flashbacks right now when Reggie McKinley first came in. I'm trying to talk myself into those guys. Ron Barty, like this defense is awful. Well, let's just call it what it is. Like they took a defense that was bad and made it a lot worse so far. So for them to go out there and think this defense can get back to even as bad as it was last year, they're going to have to find 3 or 4 starters to come in who are going to have to play at a decent level. Like there's no dogs or defensive makers on this team. They're going to have to come down to they're going to have to come down to scheme and call the perfect play on basically every down, because if Max Crosby's not getting home, who on this defense is going to do anything?
Yeah. Jim on Instagram. Are you guys gonna do a mock draft? We'll try to. And then JC is Josh McDaniels' plan to build a team, but show the NFL he can score points. We talked about that too. It's like, I think he's not gonna not score points this year. So don't get it. He's gonna do whatever he can to make sure his offense is lit. He's not gonna play that game. But I mean, defensively, I don't know what they're gonna. I mean, we talked about it.
This is a bottom 5 defense.
This is the last. This is the worst. This is the worst defense in football. Like it's not. I can't. I'm gonna go out and just say it. Like I mean,
I'm trying to be positive. Bottom 5.
I'm trying to be too. But we gotta tell the truth. Just like number 7 is gonna be an offensive lineman. Where people don't want. But I mean, listen. Like I understand I guess I mean. I didn't read the article you did. It seems like they like Tayshaun Reed a lot because they kind of chill, they kind of vibe with him a little bit. But when you read the article, like I'm not asking them to sign like multiple guys. I'm just saying like give me a linebacker who's actually a professional, and like a Miles Jack, a guy like Wagner or somebody like that. Just give it. I mean, he's on a 1-year deal in Seattle. Like, I mean, give me one guy and then surround him with young pieces so we can get, so they can learn and get better that way. Like that would make me feel a little bit better than just going out there and just, picking up I don't know, a guy who you think might, I don't know what Spillane is. He probably would have been great in the 80s. I mean, when everybody ran the football all the time, but he's not a guy who's gonna like. Here's my point: when people game plan against the Raiders, why would you even run the ball? like why would you run the ball?
Double max and throw it 50 times.
And throw 50 times. Like I mean, especially if you got a tight end. I mean, these guys are gonna stop Travis Kelce. Like, come on.
Yeah, I look at the defense and I can see roles for specific guys, but the problem with that is if 1 or 2 guys gets injured and these guys have to play different roles, they can't do it. Like Spillane is a nice inside linebacker if he has to play first down and stop the run and get in second and third and long, but he's not going to be in there on the nickel. I thought when they said they were going to let him compete to wear the green helmet, I almost crashed my car when I saw that, the green dot. Like, you don't want this guy in there on passing down. So like you're gonna have to take him out, and then you're gonna have to you need a nickel backer to go in there. I'm assuming it's Masterson. He's going to play with Diablo, but like Diablo and Masterson on passing downs, you're going to move Hobbs inside, but then on the outside, you're going to have David Long and Duke Shelley or maybe Meek Robertson. Like that's not going to stop guys from throwing the ball out there.
No.
Marcus Epps, for as nice of a player as he is, like he doesn't create turnovers in the passing game. He's not a very good coverage player either. He's going to come down and make tackles. He doesn't miss tackles. He's a nice box safety. You're going to move Merrick over to free safety. Those guys can be interchangeable. I get that, but like, everything's going to have to go perfect every week for this defense to keep teams under 20, under 24. Like,
yeah.
And you could sprinkle fairy dust and a couple rookies in here. It's still a bottom 5 defense. So, like, I just don't understand. The whole talk of the offseason was we're going to build the defense. We're going to build the defense. Well, you didn't do anything. You got worse at the cornerback position. You got worse at the linebacker position. You got worse in the defensive tackles. Like, You let Billings go, who was your best defensive tackle. You traded Hankins for a ham and cheese sandwich, and you replaced him with John Jenkins, who considered retirement, was the report yesterday, and he decided to sign on for one more year. So even if they hit on a couple of these guys, all these guys are going to be run out of here in the next year, and then they're going to be doing this again next offseason. They didn't commit to any of these guys on long-term deals.
No, not at all. And then I'm telling you, any rash of injuries, you're going to be sitting here, and it seems like every year the Raiders it's week 13, and they're playing street corners. They're playing street linebackers. They're playing people street defensive linemen, like all the time. It's like every single season they do that.
These are the corners on the roster. Ike Brown. Tell me if you want any of these guys starting. Ike Brown, Bryce Crosby, Brandon Faison, Tyler Hall, David Long Jr., Amik Robertson, Duke Shelley, and Nate Hobbs, and Sam Webb.
And like
Nate Hobbs is the only one in there, and I would say a nickel.
And how could you not want? How when you look at like people like Long, I've seen this happen all the time. You get David Long, and you get the other guy is, what's the guy's name again? Duke Shelley, right? Once you start their backup players, and then you end up exposing them to more snaps, and then people get mad that they're not putting up the same number, but maybe those guys are playing those number of snaps for a reason, because they're not NFL starters. Let's stop putting like guys out there who are not NFL starters. I mean, this team just needed they already have, a really good defensive lineman. They needed a defensive and Carl. They needed somebody to kind of manage the middle, and somebody to, kind of solidify and be that guy in the. They just had one top. They just had
Go get Marcus Peters,
a top 15 corner. Like, the top 20 corner would have been like Marcus Peters is still out there. He's on that list. I mean, how much can Marcus Peters even cost right now? And like Marcus Peters just would fit. I mean, he'll give us some plays, but they need somebody who can.
They need someone to get the football. Take the football away.
Take the football away. He is a big play.
That's been the Raiders' problem forever. They don't take the football away.
And like, how many times?
None of the guys they added are guys that take the football away.
I was just gonna say that. Like, how many times do we keep getting corners who don't force turnovers, and then we get mad.
Terrell Buckley.
Yes.
He would take it away.
Take it away.
Phillip Buchanan, for as many as he gave up, he took it away.
It took it away. You gotta be able to do that. So that's probably annoying as hell too. So, all right, Raider Nation. So did you see the interview with Brian Boldinger talking about the Patriot Way?
I didn't. I saw the tweet. I didn't watch the video. No.
Yeah, the video. Yeah, but it's basically number 12 is the Patriot Way. We've been saying that for a while. Number 12 is the Patriot Way. So as far as that goes, I mean, nobody's won. He won big, and they didn't when he left. So I mean, that kind of answers a lot of questions as far as that goes. I think that's pretty much it. Anything else you want to add? Any draft stuff you want to want to go over before we go? I know that the Raiders. I mean, we all know. Some people are think they're going to do stuff with the quarterback position. Maybe trade up to 3 to try to get a quarterback. But I think what I'm kind of sensing is that the two guys that they like are going to be gone.
Yeah, they're going to have to find if they want to get one of those two, they need a trade partner. And right now, Carolina's going to take one, and then Houston's probably taking the other. So that leads me into the whole talk. Well, just wait till next year. Well, you're going to have one of the top 2 or 3 teams be willing to trade with you. They're not going to do that.
They got to win. They got to win 3 games next year to get that pick.
They're one injury away at quarterback from doing that with the defense they currently have. So
it's true.
Who knows? We'll see. But no, I think it's smoke screens. You're going to see a lot of visits, a lot of this, a lot of that. You're going to hear a lot of rumors over the next 3 weeks until we get to the draft, and take it with a grain of salt. There's probably some truth to some of it, and there's a whole lot of non-truth floating around out there. I saw something yesterday. It was like the Raiders didn't go to Will Levis's pro day. And then I saw a tweet that said they met with Will Levis before his pro day, and that they're connected to Will Levis because Jimmy G's good with younger quarterbacks. So when did that happen? When was Jimmy G good with younger quarterbacks? Because they basically ran him out of San Francisco the minute they were ready to hand the team to Trey Lance,
Yeah.
and they only held on to him because no one else wanted to take him on at $24 million.
Yeah.
So
I would say
you're going to see they're going to be linked to all four of these quarterbacks. There's going to be all these trade rumors, and at the end of the day, I think they're going to sit tight and they're taking an offensive and defensive alignment.
Yeah, well, it's almost exactly a month away now. So when the show comes out, it'll be a month away. So we'll see what happens there. Last thing for me is how I'm pretty much resigned to the fact that this is definitely going to be 3 years with McDaniels and Ziegler. How bad would it get? It would have to get in year 2 for him to just say, "Listen, I know I gave you 2 years, but you got to go." If they're in the market for May and Williams, would that be the thing that could get him fired?
I would say yes, because I'm a big believer. If you're going to go that big, and if you're 2 years in, and then you're going to hand a third-year coach who's had no success and basically destroyed your roster the chance to take a 1 or 2 quarterback, you almost want to start fresh with a new staff so they can grow together. Because if you take that new quarterback, they're probably not going to win year 1. So now you're committing 2 more years, if not 3, to a coach that just proved they couldn't do it. So if they do end up in the top 2 or 3 next year, then I don't see a way Josh McDaniels comes back. If they're where they're at now, 7 to 10, and they show a little bit of progress, but they can just keep pointing, look over there, like at the defense, but like they're not helping it. They're going to be 2 years in, and what have they done to help this defense?
Yeah, interesting. It is interesting to me. The one thing that's interesting is it's probably an error in judgment, but for McDaniels is the fact that you're basically you are like you said, they're inches away from being in the market for Mayor Williams, and you kind of you pinned your hopes on a guy who never played 17 games, like never played 16 games. That is really and that makes me even more, to your point, makes me even more, it makes me think that even more so that they're taking the offensive lineman at 7. Yeah, I think it's definitely coming.
They are.
And they are too. All right, Ryan, safe travels. Take care, Raider Nation. We'll enjoy it. See you next time.
All right, take care.
Take care.
Bye.